goal is the abolition of civilian ownership.
Well, of course. I mean, it's beyond debate.
But let me ask you this. Why do you think they flipped out over just our mild coverage of this and misrepresented? I mean, what does that signify? And then what do you think of the militarization of police?
Well, I think I've always been on your side completely with that. I think it's ominous. I have always fundamentally been on the cop side. I believe in order and stability, and I abhor violence. But one of the reasons I've always loved America is that it's not like Latin America, in that, you walk down the street, you don't see people in fatigues with machine guns. It's a pretty peaceful country. The cops don't need howitzers and tanks and infrared, attachments on their AR-15s and all the rest. Like, I'm kind of happy to live in a country where the cops carry, snub-nosed 38.
You don't want to live in North Korea?
I really, really don't. And I don't think I'm a paranoid crackpot at all, and I don't think I'm irrational. I think it's overkill, and I think it whips people into a state of fear, and it's just absolutely silly.
What would your dad, who ran Voice of America back when it actually promoted American values, what would your dad today think about all this?
My views on almost everything come directly from him. He was the first conservative I ever knew to say, you know what, I'm not into having the police look like Delta Force. I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable. He was also the first person 20 years ago to say, I don't really like this mindless wealth accumulation. These people are greedheads, and I'm all for the market, and I'm all for capitalism and everything, but there's something gross about these finance people. He was the first conservative.
Well, we just lost Tucker Carlson. I want to get him back on for 5 minutes to finish this because it's interesting to hear him talk about that. Yeah, and the greedheads got their money through derivatives and scams, signed us onto it, and are now financing civil unrest so we can all have a revolution while they all helicopter off while we kill each other. I mean, it's scorched earth. It's like bank robbers setting fire to something across town while they rob the bank. I mean, that's all this is. And I get the police have problems and there's serious issues. The point is the bad guys are trying to get us fighting with each other. These are good interviews with Tucker Carlson because you can actually, get his ideas out and not just be kept down to 2 minutes on Fox News. But pretty powerful interview. We have another guest coming on dealing with pro-life issues and where the country is on that subject as well. Stay with us.
We're on the march.
And not about black unemployment numbers doubling from 7% to over 14% since 2008. Highest unemployment rate in the country. Leaked list shows Ferguson protesters paid by Soros front group. Hashtag Black Lives Matter is a phony AstroTurf movement funded by the establishment. Paul Joseph Watson just broke at Infowars.com. They're now protesting today in front of the Soros front group in Missouri, saying Soros didn't pay him all the money. He only spent $33 million getting it going. This is the guy that wants your guns. This is the guy that wants to get rid of the sovereignty of the country. This is the guy that got laws passed to exempt him from taxes while he and Warren Buffett lobby to get middle-class taxes raised because they get banker bailout money. Just search the term, McClatchy AP. Warren Buffett was the biggest recipient of bailout money. And he wants abortion. He wants your guns. Whatever their agenda is, it's anti-freedom. Now, we're going to have a demonstration in front of the main Planned Parenthood facility off of Ben White in South Austin. We're going to put the address on screen for TV viewers. I'll give it out for radio listeners. And Jakari Jackson is going to lead it. We're going to have a live feed here on the radio Thursday. We'll be checking in with him in the first, second, and third hour. Because regardless of what your view is on abortion, the facts are Margaret Sanger got awards from Hitler and gave awards to Hitler. We have the Colgate Foundation letter she wrote calling them black weeds that had to be exterminated. The Klan was her biggest supporter. Planned Parenthood is on record getting huge donations to target blacks. It is set up to kill black people. Over half the black people in this country since Roe v. Wade are not born. And we have Mark Crutcher on the broadcast. He's an American pro-life activist and author. He's a founder and president of Life Dynamics and the creator of the documentary MAFA 21 that gets into the targeting of black people. for extermination. He's from Denton, Texas. He's involved in just absolutely energizing the pro-life movement and humanizing these babies, whether they be Hispanic, black, white, Asian. They're all equal in God's eyes, and they need to have a chance to be in the world. Notice the left that's against the death penalty. And by the way, I don't trust the death penalty because you can't trust the federal government. But I am fundamentally for the death penalty in the spirit of it, just not in the letter of it, because you can't trust the system. I don't trust North Korea to carry it out, but I digress. We're going to our guest. But then the very same people say it's a choice. And I get it. You could argue first trimester. I'm against it, but you could argue it. No. The feminist groups last week called it inhumane not to kill 8 to 9 month babies that could be adopted. They don't even tell these women there are foundations that'll give them $30,000 to $50,000 for that baby not to kill it. That'll put them up in a house while they're pregnant, get them a job after. You go in, they counsel you to kill the baby. And I get the arguments. These are poor people. What about their future? Well, if you say everybody's trash, since we did this, what's happened in the black community? 15% illegitimacy to over 80%. Prison populations exploded. When you write off people and say they're garbage, they begin to act like that. Now, I want to get Mark Crutcher on to give some of the background on this, but Jakari Jackson's going to be out there, and I'm asking all pro-life groups to be out there because we're going from another angle. We're going to have Black Lives Matter signs and point out, hey, George Soros, over a few dozen black men getting killed every year, suspiciously, wants you to go out and riot to divert things, and then that'll bring in a bigger police state. We don't want that. How about you go and demonstrate and educate black folks on not killing their kids? Because blacks are 13% of the population. They're, what is it, half the abortions in the country? I mean, it's crazy. Well, I guess there's been 55 million abortions, 17 million are blacks, but in certain years, I know it's half. Mark Crutcher's the expert, ProLifeAmerica.com, ProLifeAmerica.com, and remember, he's got the poll numbers. America was brainwashed in the 70s and 50-50 pro-abortion. Now it's flipped the other way. It's very exciting. To give us all the facts is Mark Crutcher. God bless you. We really appreciate you coming on. And what do you think of our idea of hijacking the meme Black Lives Matter to expose abortion?
Well, it's a brilliant idea, and I can tell you that recently a group of blacks in North Carolina did something very similar with tremendous results at a black college there. And so they've had some tremendous results in this. And the black community has been lied to and been deceived by, people like you and I are always called the Christian right, and I don't have a problem with that as long as we make sure the other side is known as the godless left. But the godless left has become the new plantation, any way you look at it. And, when you start looking at the numbers, you're talking about police departments a minute ago. I did some very preliminary figures the other day, and I used very conservative numbers. So what I'm going to tell you is actually a lot worse than what I'm going to tell you. Every 17 hours, you're talking about police departments killing innocent people, and no one wants to see that happen. I can assure you no one wants to see that happen. And I think that the police departments around this country do need to have some more scrutiny put onto them and more oversight put onto them than what is currently going on. But the fact is, if you add up all of the blacks that are killed in a given year by every police department in the United States combined, you add them all together, that's fewer blacks than are killed by Planned Parenthood in less than 17 hours. Every 17 hours, Planned Parenthood kills more than every police department in this country combined kills in an entire year. And yet these godless leftists like Soros and Buffett and the rest of them, and by the way, they are pure 100% eugenicists. I'm writing a new book right now. I'm going to have a chapter in there about what these people are doing. And it is an absolute obscenity what is going on with people like George Soros and Warren Buffett. But blacks need to be paying attention to the fact that their big enemy, even in the situation where you have these rogue police departments that are not being run properly, that's not their biggest enemy.
Their biggest enemy is Buffett and Obama and Soros openly pushing, targeting blacks. And so, of course, they're acting like they're buddies, saying, oh, yeah, look, the cops are bad, I'm your friend. Just those numbers are so incredible.
Well, let me give you a real-world example of this. And you always wonder, where are the race pimps like Jesse Jackson and all the others that are so quick to jump into one of these situations, Al Sharpton, and these guys jump into these situations when they think there's some political advantage for them. But let me give you a real-world example. In 2012, a 28-year-old African-American young lady goes into a Planned Parenthood facility in Chicago, Illinois. Now, this facility had some problems with botched abortions, and they were very sensitive to the fact that when ambulances start pulling up out in the front and the pro-lifers are out there, they take photographs of this and start publicizing the fact that these people are botching these abortions. This 28-year-old girl named Tanya Reeves goes to this Chicago Planned Parenthood. They perforate her uterus in the performance of this abortion. Now, a perforated uterus can be very dangerous, but in most cases, if medical attention is sought quickly enough, it can be sutured and no harm will come to the girl other than the perforated uterus. But because they were sensitive about the fact that they'd already had ambulances pull up out here in the front, and there was a PR nightmare to have another one, when they perforated Tanya's uterus, they just rolled her out into the hallway and did what is called a pack-off, packed her off to absorb the blood that she was hemorrhaging. They left her there for 5.5 hours before they called emergency care for her. She bled to death. 28 years old, she bled to death. If you read the Illinois statute on what's called depraved indifference murder, it reads like it was written for that particular case. And yet, we called on the Chicago authorities to at least investigate them for depraved indifference murder. They would never even do that.
Well, that's what I've noticed. The abortuaries are so above the law, and I've protested them scores of times, and in different cities, and I've never seen police act as aggressive as they do when you're peacefully out there protesting them, and that's because the system puts so much pressure on them. But what about separately, 4 years ago when we got the documents that a major bioethics group in a medical journal said kill kids up to age 3, now they're saying up to age 5. Now they're saying put the veterans on do not treat lists. Now we learned that the Watson computers, by the famous eugenicist who created the Nazi computers, that's why the Jews had those numbers on them, was for that computer, for those that don't know, the Hollerith machine. Now we see what you and others warned of. Now it's not just the unborn. Now it's up to age 5. Now it's the old people. Now it's the veterans. I mean, this is insane. What we do to the least of us, we do to all of us, right?
Exactly. But let me ask you this question, Alex. Let's imagine that instead of this situation with Tanya Reeves, they murdered her. Don't make any mistake about it. This was not an accident. This was not medical malpractice.
They let her sit out there and bleed to death.
They let her bleed to death. This was depraved indifference murder. They should have been indicted. And the abortionist that killed her was a white female. Now, let me ask you this question. Let's say that instead of the Tanya Reeves situation, a 28-year-old black male had been shot by the Chicago Police Department. And instead of calling an ambulance for him, they allowed him to lie in the street for 5.5 hours and bleed out.
The country would burn when George Soros and the media hyped it up.
Absolutely. And this is in the hometown with Jesse Jackson. And Jesse Jackson has never said one solitary word about his buddies at Planned Parenthood murdering Tanya Reeves.
Well, you know Reverend Childress, and he's coming on tomorrow, and he's documented a lot of this, and I brought it up to him. Being around the pro-abortion community that's led by a lot of black folks that are Democrats, they have said to me many times, nobody wants these black people. These are bad people. Let's get rid of them. We've seen other abortionists say, who are minorities, hey, nobody wants these ugly black babies. This is a statement they make. This is the big dirty secret, is you have these black managers who actually hate black people and are presiding over their execution. And then I brought up Childress, and he goes, of course, that's all I've heard my whole life. That's standard. So they'll call somebody like Childers and Uncle Tom because he doesn't want to kill black people, when the real Uncle Tom's